Welcome back everybody to 2009 LCK Summer Split pick number 6. We're all brought to you by beautiful host Mina Kim and also joined by our analysts Victory and Suhan. So that was the first week after Risk Rivals to week number 5 in LCK. So we have some changes in LCK, especially in pick and ban rates. So there is no more any champions that are having 100% pick and ban rate. So Victor talking about there are a lot of champions gaining strength in terms of long-range champions, so that is the main reason why we're losing some of the 100% pick and ban rate. However, still Karma and Sejuani, they are on the top of the list, followed by Yuumi, Lux, and Nico. However, interesting thing is that Karma, her win rate is pretty low, 44.4%, so that might be a trap card, to be honest. And Sejuani is still having a very high win rate, and also Yuumi. Lux both having more than a 50% win rate. However, Nico, her win rate is down to 33.3%. This is a pick and ban rate of LCK week number 5. We are expecting some new champions to show up as Mordekaiser and Kiana. Those two champions will be available from today. However, since LCK is having a bit of a late start, a lot of people already witnessed it coming up in the competitive games. Both champions have been shown up in the competitive games in LEC, LCS, and also LPL. A lot of fans are thinking that it's a broken champion, but on the other side, people are still struggling like how to utilize it. However, also especially Mordekaiser, his ultimate is not 100% win rate for the person who uses it. Actually, the game can be going in a different side. Maybe the person who was taken into the room of Mordekaiser might take down Mordekaiser. So still a lot of players are working on it and having a lot of experiments. So for a safe play, maybe LCK teams might just ban it out. And still Mordekaiser are actually having a bit of a struggle in the early phase, especially in the laning phase. So we'll have to wait and see. It's gonna be even more interesting week, this week number 6. So let's go through some of the issues and highlights of last week. FLICKR, in the previous games, he mentioned that he's waiting for a 13 or 14 winning streak, and SKT is actually on the win streak currently. They are on the 4 matches winning streak. So we are waiting to see if SKT can actually make a 14 or 13 games winning streak. All the players their performance are on point, and their schedules are actually seeming quite easier compared to all other stronger teams, so maybe it's a good sign for SK Telecom. And Damwon, they tried a very unexpected pocket pick, or actually pocket duo. It was Yasuo Sejuani in bot lane. They have proven how powerful they are in game plays, especially utilizing the wind wall up against Yuumi. A lot of people have been saying that Yasuo is a huge counter pick for Yuumi because of his shield. And actually, the bot laners were able to kind of show it in games. Especially Yasuo is a very powerful flex pick for in mid and top lane also, so a lot of teams are also having their eyes on champion. And we here have another unexpected news right here. Griffin is having their first losing streak in the Summer Split. This actually reminds me of their split split. Well, Griffin having a bit of a shaky moment going into the second round, so some of the fans are a little bit concerned for the team. Maybe Suhan is mentioning that all the other teams are now knowing how to kind of face up against Griffin, so maybe Griffin has to kind of realize the fact that they're being analyzed by other teams. So Africa and Gen.G, they are having the opposite story over here. After the Rift Rivals, they're having a very huge upswing. So even though they were not participating in that tournament, they are also having a very positive influence. Especially Gen.G, a team who has been, well, maybe commented that they are a slow starter, always playing the same playstyle. This time they have been trying a lot of new champions like Volibear for support, also Fly, utilizing some of the AP champions in mid lane like Lux, FLICKR. So we are expecting maybe Gen.G can be the symbol of autumn, so they can make it to qualifier and also even to Worlds. CuVee also proved that last week that he's also available to utilizing all the carry champions and DPS champions in top lane. So let's check out the current rankings in LCK.
자, 상위권과 중위권의 싸움이 정말 치열합니다.
The competition is really fierce. Sandbox is on the first place, but the difference is not that big, so we cannot really expect what to end up in the end of the split.
말씀해주신 승 차이가 정말 중요한데요.
Sandbox and SK Telecom, they are on the first and second place, but the gap is only 3 wins. But SKT, KT Roaster, they are 7th and 8th place teams, but their gap is actually 3 victories. So the difference in the top rankings are really small, but the difference between the bottom ranking is really huge. And this is the MVP standing. 3 top laners are on the list, and there are 2 junglers are on the list. Rascal, he is having some of the best moments in his career, and followed by Summit, Nuguri, and Dread Canyon. As the junglers, they're also doing a great performance in games. And this is the KD standings of the top laners: Sword, Nuguri, Keen, Rascal, and Khan. So average in LCK for top laners is actually 3.0, so it's really impressive that Nuguri and Sword is remaining that high KDA. This is the rankings of KDA for the junglers. Well, the gap is closing actually between the Tarzan and other junglers, but Tarzan, Canyon, they are on and Clint, they are on a very high list on the rankings, and also followed by Peanut Cuz. So Peanut, especially I think he has solved the problem in terms of teamwork with the Gen.G players, so he's now on the 4th place on the ranking. Showmaker, his KDA is the highest among all the mid laners, followed by Dove, CuVee, Kuzan, and Naehyun.
자, 이어서 바텀 순위 만나보시죠.
Moving on to the bot lane.
바이퍼 선수가 8점.
Viper is on the first place with 8.1 KDA, followed by Teddy, 7.0, Ruler, Nuclear, and Aiming.
가운데 눈에 띄는 거는 최근에 그래도 좋은 경기 보여주면서
Well, the impressive thing is that Nuclear, with his improved performance, and Aiming, who have shown a lot of damage in terms of the whole damage done to the champions, they are also on the list. And lastly, support, Lehans is on the first place, followed by Life, Girl, Mara, and Tusin. So all the players on the list are very well-known, engaged players. So I think maybe support players is really crucial to open team fights really well in the current meta.
네, 재미있는 기대되는 경기를 찾는 것도 당연히
This is the upcoming matches for this week. We are now only having 4 match days a week, and the first match for today will be Sandbox versus Gen.G, and match number 2 will be Kingzone versus Hana Life. So let's talk about Saturday right here. Griffin versus Damwon. It's gonna be the biggest match of this week, maybe. So Griffin, this might be their chance to stop their losing streak and gain momentum back, or Damwon, maybe they can be the team that is so unstoppable, and they can maybe make it to the first place. And Suhan talking about Gen.G versus Kingzone match. If Gen.G might be able to take down Kingzone over there, they might be a very firm, stronger team in LCK, so that can bring a big change in the standings as well. Today's first match will be the first team versus the 5th team, Sandbox versus Gen.G, so I'm gonna pass it back to our casters. Thank you.
Thank you, G-Sun, for that wonderful translation of the entire analyst desk. We are here on the desk live for Sandbox versus Gen.G. It's me, Valdez, with Papa Smurfy. How are you doing today, man?
I'm Smurfing on the caster desk as usual, Valdez, and I'm happy to be here for what should be a really interesting game. Sandbox, by virtue of being the only team at 8 wins, are currently top of the table. But right now, I don't have an answer to the question that I feel like I've known since I arrived in Korea 4 years ago. Who is the best team in Korea right now? It evolves, but if you watch all the games, there's usually at least one team, perennially SK Telecom. For 2016, a lot of it, the Rocks Tigers. Other teams have rolled through. Kingzone Dragon X for a lot of last year. But it was always clear who it was and when it changed. Right now, it feels like the one time where you throw the papers up in the air and you wonder, who's actually good in Korea? Because there's a lot of teams that are quite good, but first through 7th has never been closer in the race for those 3 spots to go to Worlds.
And that's always what you want, right? You don't want one team to always be dominating, to have it competitive and to everybody come into every match and have it be a close match and a question as to who is going to win is at least my preference. Although having reigns and eras of teams is also interesting as well. Sandbox versus Gen.G, first matchup here. It's first versus 5th. Gen.G just coming off their win over Griffin, and then up against Humble Life as well. So Gen.G feeling pretty good right now about their position, but they're on the up and up, whereas Sandbox is currently just up there at the top.
Peaknut, 6 win, 0 loss.
Wait,
Will Pejuani continue its win streak?
I didn't even see that until you said it.
Thoughts, Valdez? Well, good news, guys. Mordekaiser, Kiana available today. I should update that move on. While we're talking.
Get in there.
I'm high standards. I can do a lot of things at once over here. I know that you're big. Maybe you're the
low
decision.
standards later this week. But
high standards for now. And we should mention, shout out to our boy Atlas. He's over in China working on a rival event that we won't give any publicity to. It's a world event. As we jump into our big match today, Sandbox versus Gen.G. We have Kingzone Humble Life, so a bit of a different kind of ebb to our second series of the day, but top of the table action, first versus 5th. If Sandbox win, they stay that one entire best of 3 ahead of the rest, so it's a really important game for them. But Gen.G have picked up their season from kind of nowhere a week ago to a really impressive 2-0 week where CuVee looked like the best player in the LCK. It's going to be really interesting to see whether they can repeat that form today.
Yeah, it just adds another team to the pool, right? I know that people were looking at SKT and saying, okay, they're on the up and up. They are doing pretty well nowadays, but Gen.G was that other team there. FLICKR also overcoming Griffin and kind of on the up and up after a very strong start to the summer. Anybody really could make it into the playoffs at this point. We have so many teams fighting for those 7 spots.
Well, let's look over Sandbox first. Coming off a victory against Jin-Air. I don't think Sandbox were particularly amazing last week. The Jin-Air series on the one side, and then the other side, of course, they had, from memory, a match loss last week as well. So I think Sandbox still have some things to work on. They lost to Dumb1 Gaming in pretty convincing fashion, 2-0. It's been a while. That was on the 13th. It is now the 18th here in Korea, so 5 days break between series. Sandbox will want to come in and look impressive, given that it's been a while since we've seen a battling victory. Their schedule's intriguing, because they beat Jin-Air, but it's Jin-Air. They lost to Dumb1 Gaming 2-0. Their series before that was another 2-0 win over Jin-Air, so they played Jin-Air twice at their last 3 matches. Gen.G weren't in form when they faced them. It was an easy victory for Sandbox in the first round robin. Now, kind of a couple of weeks later after a break, we see the matches, but given games like this, it's a very different context.
It absolutely is. CuVee playing the Vladimir. I believe that was also his first time. You guys did mention that on the broadcast. Also had this nice play up against the 2 of them from Humble Life in the top lane, made that look really easy. But again, that was Humble Life. They're also one of the guys that are down there at 2-8 currently for summer. Not really gonna have much of a chance of getting 6th place this time around. But for certain, I mean, Gen.G are looking quite good. And I'm just happy that they're back ramping up before we do get to the World Qualifiers, where no doubt, somehow, some way, they'll have a good chance of qualifying.
And we get to talk about the top lane, and this matchup is finally hype. CuVee, world champion CuVee, is someone we can get excited about. And Valdez, it's early, it's the regular season, it's not even Worlds Gauntlet.
Yeah.
And CuVee's form last week was world class. He looked like a monster in a league that has Nuggery and many great top laners. CuVee shined last week on some of his really famous pick, an on-hit cannon player of all-time repute, a wonderful Camille top lane player. Looked in great form last week. What's he got for us this week? Because if he goes competitive against Summit, maybe he's actually warming up to getting that team, hard carrying them all the way to the World Championships another year in a row.
Yeah, and Summit himself has been an integral part of this lineup. He currently has a really high, he's tied for first in MVP points. You were pointing out there on the stats that we just had that CuVee's actually ahead in solo kills up at the top lane, so we'll see how that works out for him. Maybe he can grab another one tonight.
Sandbox Gaming, we already mentioned the schedule. 2 wins over Gen.G and a loss in their last 3 matches, and yet 1 series clear at the top. They've got a real test today. Gen.G are very unlikely to come in unprepared after a wonderful week coming back from Rift Rivals. The only team not to play at Rift Rivals that looked like they'd leveled up with the week off. To show off the team here. I'm hearing some different sounds around me, so I'm trying to understand it out. Atlas, Valdez.
No, yeah.
It's
maybe
Thursday.
Maybe
It's usually an
week.
Atlas day. I'm 1 Australian down, but damn it, I'll ramp up the Aussieisms just to get over the line.
Yeah. Papa the Robot programmed a specific way. I had to reprogram that for today. As I'm sitting in here, and Fly is back. Fly is back once again. No surprise there, as he's been, once again, he's found some more very specific picks that work pretty much only for him, and he's making them work for now.
My question, though, and that will be tested this week, is the honeymoon phase of coming back after being out of the roster all summer is over. Fly has always been Fly. As you mentioned, small effective champion pool. Can he recreate the kind of momentum they showed last week with the Lux pick they returned to multiple times, with kind of further games and being examined much closer now that he seems to be the starting mid, at least in the near future? We'll see how much they use Kuzan in the second round robin. Here are your rosters. Joker Ghost, Dove, OnFleek, and Summit have been just the perennial starters on the side of Sandbox. Gen.G, CuVee, Peanut, Fly ever since last week, picking up that mid lane spot, and Ruler in Life. Life looking very dapper this season. He's been losing weight, looks great. But also, his play level has only increased. And Ruler and Life as a duo, not quite in the Ruler Core JJ spot. They don't have that World Championship medal behind them. But I look at this duo and I'm like, one of the best laning duos we have once again. And Ruler's been a part of 3. Ruler and Wraith, when they played together, we called them, Monty and I, the best laning duo we had in the LCK. In Ruler's debut season, Ruler and Core JJ need no introduction. Ruler and Life, Ruler's the common player there. And just like Deft, he hasn't been a huge hard carry this season, but we know that he's 80 carry royalty for sure.
Yeah, I think if you had to ask what are some lanes that we're looking at, obviously Ruler every time for Gen.G, but even Ghost coming in up against Gen.G brought out the Draven once again. I hope that's not just, you know, confidence against Gen.G, and maybe he can bring that pick back into consistent competitive play for him. And of course that top lane that we already talked about, Summit versus CuVee. CuVee surprisingly popping off in solo kills for this season. And Summit also a very fantastic player. CuVee in form, should be a fun top lane.
And it's going to be a fun pick and ban, at least in game number 1, because I want to know what Sandbox took away from Gen.G's 2-0 week last week, and how they're going to approach playing against what seems like a Gen.G with a new lease on life. But like I was alluding to just a few moments ago, there's always a halo effect. When you change something and it works, when you bring back Fly after not playing in summer, things can definitely change. Speaking of change, we're still on patch 9.13, not the bug-ridden 9.14, but Kiana available, Mordekaiser available, and I see 4 bans, and so far we're leaving those new champions open, Valdez, so this could be a spicy game number 1.
Yeah, you know, coming into this, a lot of the guys backstage were expecting Kiana bans.
Not I.
And maybe even Mordekaiser bans, but both of them are left available. in favor of, you know, it's generally the red side's responsibility, but Tom Kent's Aatrox and Jace instead.
So give your papa some credit. You heard me say they would not be banned today.
That is true.
They are not banned.
I am the witness.
In Korea, Assassins have always, I feel like in the last 3 to 4 years, been kind of held in a different regard to other regions because they're like, oh, but, you know, they don't have the wave clear and the safety of the, you know, control mages. So I feel like Assassins like Kiana, until they're actually proven on the LCK stage, there will be kind of those high standard thoughts of like, oh, we'll be fine, don't worry about it. So I'm not surprised to see Kiana left open champion. It's definitely very powerful. Speaking of power, Karma and Lux locked in, and we don't have those new shield breaking mechanics just yet. That's a lot of shields, and Rule is a pretty good AD carry.
Yeah, I feel like I can already see a little bit of salt on OnFleek's face, but more likely he's just trying to decide what we're picking here. Maybe we're going Glacials, as Braum is going to be locked in alongside of that Sejuani. And who's going to be the first one to take that step onto the Mordekaiser? I feel like you were talking about the Assassins not really going to be picked up, but the Mordekaiser definitely could be a big pick here. I'd be very surprised to see both of them entirely ignored in this first game.
I think it's more of a red side last pick to me. I think that leaving it early is definitely a bit of a risk. With Sejuani first pick, do you want to go for one of those melee laners that have synergy? And Camille, Fiora, and in this case we see the Aurelia have that very obvious synergy. With the first pick, Sejuani, a jungle solution is already acquired, and Peanut has already been on Trundle duty so far in the summer season. It's not a guaranteed win button. A lot of junglers in the LCK will go Hail of Blades to decrease the validity of that Trundle ult steal, getting those massive resists and putting Sejuani into negatives. And you can also just play elsewhere, be really assertive with the now higher damage Sejuani, and make ganks happen. So the Trundle will be there as the soft answer rather than kind of the hard answer it was in previous metas. We'll go to the second round, and will we see any of those bans, Valdez? Right now, thinking no.
Yeah, it does feel like no, especially just the attitude from both teams in the first phase. I wouldn't be surprised to see it fall through here, at least in the banning phase, as we're targeting 80 carries on both sides of the rift. I think, as you were mentioning, Sandbox have a good idea that with all those shields, they want to take some of those hard carries away. Already the Kalista going to be banned, and the Draven away from Ghost, I mentioned it. They saw it last week up against Jin. They will not let him get it.
It release pressure off a lot of the 80 carry picks to Ruler prefers to go on, and unlike other regions where sometimes you have blanket Draven bans or multiple teams that draw Draven bans, with KT, you know, putting Gango out of the roster, we really only have one resident Draven, and it's Ghost. Played it very recently, so don't hate the ban here. The Kalista ban is also a soft Volibear ban against Gen.G because they were the team that brought out the Thunderbear support, and you need the Kalista to make that really super good. Let's see where Karma and Lux are going. You know, Gen.G are the most frustrating team to have a red side Lux because they can flex it across multiple lanes. Jin, baby, I would love to see, but
yeah,
tricky to make it work against Aurelia, Braum, Sejuani. I think this would actually be a pretty bad time to bring out Jin, but I'd love to see it.
And instead, it is going to be Ashe, so a lot of control added to the lane and to the game here by Ruler. And a lot, just so many 80 carry bans. I mean, we had 6 of them in total, so we're kind of getting down to the lower levels here. Lucian was another one that is currently being hovered with the Braum.
Yeah, Lucian Braum to try to bust a lane. They still don't know exactly what support it is, so we'll wait and see if that's the decision here. Sandbox have gone to this lane a lot, but they are guilty, like a lot of other Korean teams, of farming out Lucian Braum lanes rather than using it as the kill lane it can function as. Heavily expecting this to be 40% CDR Ashe as well, you know, the Trinity Force Essence Reaver build that has taken a lot of eyes around the world since Sneaky played it for the first time. Closing out the draft, usually they go for the double flex assassins and something like the Akali available in this scenario, but they want to be a bit safer. They know it could be Lux mid, and it will just be the hard Azir lock, so Summit on the Aurelia. Azir in the mid, although there are some players practicing top lane Azir, and we have seen it around the world.
That was the interesting thing, because right when it got hovered, we cut to Summit nodding his head, but I think that was just him saying, yes, I can play the Aurelia more than the Azir, but we'll have to wait and see, as Kennen is the final lock in here for CuVee.
Let's see how this all shakes out. especially between Life and Fly. Could definitely go for both choices here. And we'll see what the preference is. Against the Azir, I'd probably defer to the Karma. I think it's a champion that can smash Azir, but the Lux is still very viable if you're willing to hang back. It doesn't help Peanut. It's the sort of thing where you won't have lane presence, and Peanut more often than not will have to have some struggles when playing around ganks. Waiting for that 20 seconds, we get the lock in. It will be the Karma mid lane. Now, with the Karma mid lane, you can potentially be really aggressive with the Trundle. Invade first by pushing in hard and then using the Mantra speed in order to invade. So there could potentially be a lot of inroads there. Coming back to the Azir, I liked it most as kind of a soft counter to Mordekaiser top, one of those outranging champions. I think mostly, especially in the LCK, will be the Azir mid lane. And here we go. Very balanced teamfight comp coming through from the side of Sandbox that can play around Aurelia pressure as well, but it is short range outside of the Azir, and that's something to remember.
And it's definitely very interesting that we get Mordekaiser and Kiana in here, and neither of them are picked or banned. So we're just going to have very normal compositions for 9.13 for these specific teams, and we'll have a lot more of this until 9.14 comes out.
Good news, though. We've got Kingzone in our second season. I bet they'll be contesting Mordekaiser and Kiana. First game of the day, Sandbox versus Gen.G.
Alrighty, here we go, game one of the day. I noticed that Sandbox, most teams, they use 2 syllables for their names when they do the fan chants, so it's kind of easy, right? Bubba fighting, but for Sandbox, it's Sandbox, which is 4. I guess in English it's 2, but they kind of have a longer chant than other teams, is what I'm trying to say, which I just noticed now.
Late invade coming here from Gen.G, trying to control Sejuani's pathing. Spotted by Ghost, but he's going to be able to get out. I guess there's no easy one, because like SK Telecom T1 have T1 fighting. I guess box fighting is kind of strange, so... And sand fighting.
Sand fighting.
So you would know this.
And definitely not SB fighting. You don't want to say that here in Korea.
I'm surprised. Was that bleeped? We'll have to ask our producer afterwards whether that had to be bleeped out. That's not okay. But you couldn't do sand fighting. And interesting, in Korea, you'll know this. They actually very often will shorten the word sandwich to sand. You'll see chicken sand, and you'd be like, that doesn't sound very edible. But that's short for chicken sandwich, apparently, according to Koreans.
Chicken sand. It's true. I didn't think you were going to bring that up, but it definitely... Also, there are snacks that are like mini sandwich, right? Like little cookie sandwiches, right? They call them sands. I'm like, what is this? Why would you ever want... And it's those cookies that fall apart and kind of feel like sand in your mouth, too. So I thought at first, I'm like, wow, they're actually just calling it sand here in Korea.
Wow.
But
I don't want to eat what you just talked about. They're probably not going to sponsor us now.
No.
You did not make the chicken sand sound the most appetizing.
It's okay.
Koreans love that one.
Yeah. They could say senba fighting. That is something that they would do. I don't know why they don't do that.
I'll put you in contact. I have a business card from Sandbox Gaming. I know one guy.
Okay.
So we'll let you reach out.
It.
Joker and Ghost. We're helping with some jungling there. So they were just helping and checking out with some warding on the bottom side. Deep wards. The Trundle's doing his thing. Will not get through the Krugs. That's what they were checking, I believe, the Krug camp, to make sure that wasn't taken away. Sejuani wants to go topside, get what camp she can, and then clear from Krugs up. So it's pretty important that they contest the Krugs. Otherwise, the path for OnFleek gets a bit fuzzy.
Yeah, and everything's spotted the whole way. Both of the teams did have a ward and knew exactly where the enemy junglers were and all that jazz. There were 2 pings on the blue side, blue buff jungle. But Sejuani's actually not there yet. He's taking the Raptors.
We get the comment from Ruler to confirm this will be lane presence CDR Ashe coming through in this game. So a little note there. Another note I wanted to point out is that OnFleek's gone old school. It's not Halo Blade. It's gone back to fleet footwork on the Sejuani. Always been a rune that has been considered against the Trundle, and we're the only region I feel like that's doing this. People refuse to go Aftershock Sejuani into Trundle because of how the Subjugate interacts with the Sejuani passive and Aftershock, which I think is cool. I think it is a level up that people should consider. Speaking of level ups, on the top side, it's CuVee, so you didn't need to look at that rune. You know it's press the attack. That is the decision from him. And he just split pushed Gen.G to a hard victory in their last series, and I imagine he'll try to do it again.
Yeah. And we had a lot of the camps here with a little Bambi staying around. It wasn't the Wolves, but it was the Raptor Bambi. I know our good friend Low Standards would be happier about that, so it doesn't get rubber banded and all that good stuff. So I feel like both the junglers doing a good job. We're just farming up here, but Gen.G already with a small little lead. One of the plates already in the bottom lane even going down. So
yeah, Lucian Braum does function. It has function as like this lane counter, right? Because with where the meta was, where you had to basically play a melee support every time, it just won almost every lane 2v2 when it was Tahm Kench lanes and other melee supports. In this season, when you have newfangled stuff like Lux support and Ashe with Comet with Ashe buffs, it's much harder to dominate lane in that particular way. So that's why you're seeing these Lux lanes that we call kind of two turret plate lanes, because Lux support provides so much presence, just so heavily outranging Ghost and Joker that they have the all-in options for sure. But outside of that, in a resting normal state, they're just losing turret plates and there's very little they can do.
And it's super early too, because the Ashe is there alongside the Lux. Sometimes this happens even in just a Lux lane. As we might get a nice little pillar here. Joker is going to have to flash that one, as it looks like that was perfectly placed to not allow him to get by.
If you're wondering why he had to flash, you could look on the minimap and see that Lucian was dealing with a minion wave under turret, a full minion wave, so couldn't actually walk up to give a W to taxi away on. So it's actually optimal time for Gen.G to contest and kind of a poor time for Joker to be poking out his head to ward. Yes, you want a ward then, but they didn't have the liberty to do so. They take the appropriate losses, and Gen.G know there's actually no ward in this brush, and they're coming for a repeat game.
I mean, he got a Lux. You can slow down the Braum. Hopefully Ghost can get him to taxi this time around, as it's Joker without the flash. Guardian's down.
He went for the Q onto the minion rather than a melee auto attack, just in case Peanut stuck around in mid lane.
Oh boy, here we go. Trying to dunk here on the fly. Already going to go for the flash. We'll get the root. Here's the gank down on the bottom side, but Joker taking the damage. First blood going to be given over to Ruler with that last auto attack.
So much action on the Rift. It was a 1v1 play in mid lane, and Peanut found that time to sneak around, and, well, a pillar behind you can be a real thorn when you have no flash. Joker goes down through heal. Lucian Braum not functioning as a lane buster, and in Spring, it often was just Lucian Braum farming it out, and that wasn't enough out, as when they lose, it's even worse.
Yeah, I mean, the more we see this lane, the more we're just kind of head in hands, as we'll take another look at the play here as he tries to dunk him in OnFleek is level 4, but the flash gets him to safety.
Does mean a repeat gank when OnFleek is 6 is possible, but maybe the map state won't allow for it because Peanut comes bot lane, and Joker understands pretty early that he's in trouble. It's actually all life, so they actually focused onto Ghost and like, okay, we'll get summoners here after the pillar didn't actually prop him back, but life is the one to hit the binding. Shout out to one of our Rookie of the Year considerations in life. He started in 2019, and he has been just much more reliable than a replacement for one of the best supports in the world in Core JJ could have ever expected to be as a rookie.
Yeah, absolutely. And the pillar was kind of interesting, but we're not going to talk about that for Peanut. We'll give him the slide. It was a good play overall from them down in the bottom side, and things are just, once again, looking really good for Gen.G here in this early game. We haven't seen too much action in the top lane. Both of the junglers have been heavily avoiding this lane, actually, just farming it out and looking mid and bot for now.
I'm actually very interested to see how the trades go in this lane now. It's the first time I'm seeing press the attack Aurelia versus press the attack Cannon after the Aurelia change to lose the disarm on the ultimate. So definitely a lane that I assumed that Cannon would have got stronger in the 1v1. Top side, we have Peanut tracking this one.
Oh boy, and Peanut's right there to help him. CuVee with the slicing Maelstrom, trying to do that damage. The flash forward, though, from Summit is going to be enough. And the freeze here, actually, on a Peanut means that it cannot get that follow-up kill, as the Triumph gets Summit enough health to stay alive.
Stun timing there was so important about us. It looked like it would be just a trade kill that CuVee wouldn't get kill credit on. He'll be able to teleport back in and pick up that minion wave. And G should consider their options bot side. With the control wards, probably no deep teleport from Summit to answer CuVee, who has to teleport top side. Ideal play here would be if you had a ward in the second brush, actually being able to get an aggressive move as Lucian Braum with the TP advantage on Aurelia. Not going to happen in this case, sadly, because no ward to make the play happen.
They can't even get close. I mean, they're just poked down the entire time. I mean, already Ghost is down 15 CS, and that means that OnFleek has to come down here and relieve some pressure. Does not have his ultimate, but maybe they can get something going here anyway. Perfect binding there from Life. He's trying to turn it around, but he is going to just flash away as there's the arrow. Trying to discards them now with that culling, and you can see that Peanut was just a little bit late to try to join on the counterattack.
Not rushed even in the smallest way was Life there. I love his poise to just say, you guys are grouping up from a queue. I'm going in 2v3. Had to flash in the end, but holds on to one of her summoners, does the Lux, and that is just fine. From Life's perspective, they repel the gank. Peanut unable to clear out the ward, but mostly here to just help with the back timing. Get some safety onto Gen.G, as Ruler doesn't have his teleport.
OnFleek about to hit his ultimate too. Would be interesting if they knew the timing, as Ruler is just gonna disappear. As it was a perfectly landed ultimate there from OnFleek. Ruler seemed to have no idea, was not able to flash in time.
Well, he had Peanut in his pocket, so he thought he'd be fine, but the assertiveness, the decisiveness that OnFleek showed, he knew that he wasn't in vision with the control ward spot that they had. Was able to pick up the kill, though, turn it on to Drake, and they're getting something out of a bot lane. It's been a bit of a horror story for the side of Sandbox.
Yeah, they will pick up this Cloud Drake, most likely. You can see Peanut hanging around, but that should go over the weight of Sandbox here, so way to turn that one around. Another Cloud Drake coming in here for the side of the Rift here at 11 minutes. We'll take another look as OnFleek got 6 on the ward, it looks like, actually.
I believe you're correct on that. During the play here, CuVee needs to buy space, but by the time he flashes, he's low. There should have been a counter kill, but the stun timing on the permafrost could not have been more on point from OnFleek. We see him again, and this play is possible if you hit the Sejuani ult, because he knows he won't be scouted. The problem with how Gen.G were playing is they're there for a counter gank if OnFleek takes the route around and goes for a different angle. But if he comes in straight with ult, what's a Trundle going to do, right? He has to walk down and pillar. He won't be able to impact the fight meaningfully early, so it felt like Ruler was positioning as if he was super okay, but in that particular context, he was found out.
Yeah, especially with this flash and all the protection you were talking about. You can't really blame him for that one. It was overall just a good play from the side of Sandbox, Sandbox, and as you were pointing at, we do have a ward now to try to spot that out here as OnFleek once again wants to make a gank happen with that ultimate timing. It just came off cooldown here.
And OnFleek is showing what can happen in Sejuani versus Trundle, because if you go in as Sejuani and hit your stuff, the damage numbers are higher. The last time that when we had this sort of meta compositions with Sejuani in the meta, and the damage in lanes is higher because we have carries everywhere. So Trundle very often is like, aha, I'll be ahead of the play and there with the ult. However, it doesn't steal as much, and sometimes the person just blows up, and then what's a Trundle to do 1v2? So if you're going to play this matchup, do consider really just pulling the trigger hard. You're either going to come out a superstar or look a bit silly.
And so far, OnFleek has been the superstar here for the side of Sandbox. Good ol' 1-0-1, 100% kill participation. Making it happen in the lanes where they needed a little bit of help most. And you can see because of that gank up in the top side, Aurelia up a level and up more than 30 CS already at 13 minutes. So it's getting all those lanes going, and the outlook is good here for the mid game for Sandbox.
Last time these two teams played was not that long ago, like we're mentioning. It was in week 4, so about 3 weeks ago was a 2-0 win on spot lane.
Look at the new control ward from Sandbox.
Yeah.
It's like, well, if you're going to put a ward there, then we'll just try to shut that one down.
Now he's going to take the other angle, going to be spotted in a control ward, but love the little mind games here. The next levels on previous ward spots and previous gank attempts. That's what you always love to see. was a bit of a battling victory for Sandbox. Last time out, CuVee trying the GP twice and getting to different degrees run over by Summit. But because it's such a different CuVee recently, we try to give them the benefit of the doubt until Summit can show they can slap CuVee down to previous form.
CuVee taking a page out of all the top laners here in the LCK's notebook and freezing the lane. Everybody in the LCK now loves to do this, at least in the top lane, we'll say, and usually only in the laning phase. So sorry, low standards. You know, doesn't happen all the time. Mostly in that one position, as Peanut going to join down here on the bottom side. Unfortunately, it's 20 seconds after the plates went down, but they still will get that first blood turret in the bottom lane.
But the Rift Herald is being taken top side, and if they can get an important turret either in mid or top lane, Kennen and Karma really function differently if their turrets go down. They can't be the same annoying laners that they represent before that. So, wait and see. Top lane will be my preference because AD Kennen's fallback is kind of crappy team fighting compared to AP Kennen. They're going to go straight topside, and OnFleek doesn't even need to use the Rift Herald. That could be a 2-for-1 special here. Just trying to work out which side it's going to be on with Cloud Drake spawning in 55 seconds.
Peanuts here in the mid lane, just trying to get some other value where he can, but again, it's Azir, and we did have the Sejuani leave, but still will have that Rift Herald, so almost definitely going to be looking towards the mid lane, but we'll have to wait and see. This one does go. It's been a very quiet mid lane so far outside of that one play with the Azir just popping the flash from the Karma, but after Fly got his flash back, nobody else made any attempts, and it's just been a quiet, slight lead here for the Azir.
And our expectation is that the game goes long as Aurelia can contend with Kennen. I actually give a slight lead to Kennen in the 1v1. The map state does favor Sandbox in multiple ways, but the right now is good. Notice this is the one-item spike going into the Athenes and then Lost Chapter build from Fly. It's a utility-focused build. It's about team fighting now, and they want to get their lead soon. They have 30% CDR already from items coming through from the Ashe. So if Ardent Sensor joins this crew, they're going to have a lot of power at about 20 minutes. And I think that's really good in the current meta we're in, going for an early power draft that can really spike around 22 minutes, get you an early Baron and close games, is a really nice comp. But Gen.G have failed with Karma mid lane comps already this season, so can they actually pilot the aggression that is required around the 15 to 25 minute mark to make a draft like this work, or will they just get outscaled is kind of what I want the viewers to focus on here. Because right now, if Sandbox are just picking up objectives, that's under the nose of a Gen.G that should be competing for them.
Absolutely, and 2 Cloud Drakes, not going to be the worst thing in the world here. They're going to be really fast. How about a Crown Drake, number 3, will be coming up next here. Will we see that Rift Herald used in the mid lane? I thought maybe you'd drop it down and then go for the Cloud Drake and use that for pressure, but as you're mentioning, I mean, Gen.G kind of just sitting back and letting it all happen as Fly waiting in the bush. We got an arrow coming in as it's only going to zone here. Going to sweep that one up, and Dove can easily get away as that wall from the Emperor's Divide, and the gank was not successful.
And it was quite optimistic, right? The downtown ultimate from mid lane for a 3.5-second stun looks amazing if you pull it off, and we've had obviously amazing examples in history. But in that case, with a comp that should be able to say, no, it's Karma plus X, we win fights. They're going for from downtown plays. And you try this in NBA Jam, you lose. If you try this in League, you often lose. So because of that, we want to see Gen.G actually use their tools in a convincing way. Speaking of tools, Sandbox gets down that late summon on the Rift Herald. Not going to get the turret with the charge. We're going to get a big chunk on mid.
Yeah, that's all that the Shelly's going to do for now. But you remember that trade in the bot side for Shelly. Sandbox also got that turret as I'm going to hold that thought. They're trying to burst down Peanut here. Nice timing on the stopwatch, but can he even survive? Big shield from the entire team, and he's going to flash at the last second, and Dove gets stunned up, and down he will go. Gen.G going to turn this one around big time. Pick up that kill as CuVee still following them down, but Gen.G with all the shields in their comp are able to take that win.
Just about turning around. Peanut looked like he was going to sacrifice his life, but like you mentioned, the extra oomph on the shielding keeps him alive, and Dove dies with flash up, trying to get in there and get that first kill of the team fight. Now, it's not the sort of pick that's going to change the game state. We go back to side lanes. Nothing will happen objective-wise from it. But a good look from the side of Gen.G. They cannot afford to trade down. So at least a 1 for 0 is kind of the minimum. They need more.
Still waiting on that more, as even after that kill, doesn't look like much happened. I mean, this is in his ear with the teleport, so he immediately can just go to the top lane, push that one out, continue to put on pressure. It's just a little bit of extra gold in the pockets of Gen.G and not much else. As now we're looking for a stun here on a CuVee, but Sandbox is moving back as they notice the rotation. Gen.G
will be able to pump out a Q and potentially slow down any map movement. Karma holding the wave in top side, but Fly's flashes up. Must admit, not a fan of mid lane Karma being used in top lanes. We'll talk about that more after the replay. Just Peanut kind of ward clearing indifferently and being collapsed on. And play could have ended here, so let's watch for the turn. And it was life again. Just hitting a life binding from downtown that catches and gets the kill. The 2-second stun duration is oh so powerful. It's not 9:14, so we don't have the scaling cooldown on Q, the last maxed ability from most support Luxes. I imagine we'll have to see Q be the second max after the patch comes in. The ability gets a lot of value there. I want to draw your attention to Dove's build as well. He's got a very early Void Staff, so he's got a build built for fighting, and he can even fight the early magic resist purchases from Karma in the 1v1.
Specifically very good up against Harris. Finally from downtown, it looks like it may happen here. The follow-up subs come in, and after that kind of Ash Arrow, you had to imagine he was going to go down.
And it's a tilter, isn't it? The moment that you're sitting there for 3.5 seconds doing your taxes and writing a message to your loved ones, you know you're dead, and you know that you're going to go down. It's going to allow CuVee to push in the minion wave. Sejuani, amusingly, is hiding in the brush to freeze the wave for the Aurelia, or potentially to pick it up. Seems like pushing it back is going to be the choice, so somewhere LS is very frustrated.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, nice from downtown pick that time, but it's the sort of play that's very likely to only get you a kill and no more, and we're still waiting for Gen.G to show us the more that usually a mid lane Karma provides.
We haven't had much else of that. They don't have the greatest Baron speed or objective take. I mean, there have been no Mountain Drakes so far. It's only the windy day here out on the Rift with 3 clouds. As from downtown, thanks Riot Korea.
That one was just slightly generous on the hitbox, but he never got to get through the CC duration bar there. It was infinite for the life bar of Summit. Trinity Force into Titanic Hydra on the way. Pretty standard build path. CuVee's got a bit of everything, even a Jorum's Fist thrown in there towards, you would imagine, a Frozen Mallet as the game goes on. Sandbox have got 2 Cloud Drakes, a third one comes in, and even though Gen.G are pretty speedy, gotta say Sandbox got some budget karma going on with the 3 Cloud Drake buff.
They're all going to be incredibly fast. I mean, when you get this much speed, you can even make better map plays as we go along. Joker, he jumped to an ally that was right next to him, but is still going to live here as Peanut. The subjugate is not going to be able to do enough. Nice little push down here on the bottom side, but we're not diving CuVee anytime soon as Fly is pushing the top lane.
I think Sandbox are perfectly fine with this, though. If Karma is in the 1 in top lane, she's not buffing for aggressive plays. She's just getting turret autos in. And even if out of top lane turret goes down, it's not the end of the world. They're still ahead in terms of turrets at the moment. So given that, you just kind of would prefer that Karma did her thing on her own at the point when she's the strongest. And in my estimation, that's now. Karma is really, really powerful. Around 1-2 items in the early game phase. CuVee chasing on to OnFleek, gets a Q out of him. What is the next flare point in this game? Because I don't think an Ocean Drake spawn at 27 minutes is going to be that big fight position.
Yeah, nobody's going to care about that one. Hopefully we can see the team that's ahead just leave it alive and then have it spawn the Elder, but we've seen a lot of the opposite of that. Nowadays in the LCK, everybody's rolling. They've been playing a lot of TFT. They want to roll for the bigger Drakes, the cool ones like the Mountain Drake and the Infernal.
The TFT meta has been getting more aggressive, and the LCK meta is situationally aggressive, but I saw that Gen.G series at the end of the week. It was a lot slower than their impressive win over Griffin. So at the end of the day, not heavily expecting this to be super action-packed. Sandbox, you know, there was actually a really good translation provided of Cloud Templar's kind of end of first round robin thoughts on teams, and he, like many analysts, kind of in two minds about Sandbox. His Ghost's gonna have to flash in mid. He says that one issue I have with them is they're not proactive enough when they can be. They've drafted proactivity around the Lucian farm. They're farming it out. It's Gen.G. They're farming it out. So we're kind of waiting to be convinced as to where the real fight will happen. And will there be more than one Valdez? This does feel like a one and done game.
Yeah. Actually, Gen.G are first for Baron power plays, which was a cool stat that we did see before the game started. I wonder if that's just because, you know, they get a Baron and the game kind of ends as they roll down all the turrets and get massive gold. I mean, their average Baron power play is like 5,000 gold, which is pretty incredible.
The average game time has been getting a little bit longer last week, but it's on the shorter ebb as well. So Gen.G, are they challenging? Are they changing? Does Fly coming in make them now a playoffs buff team? My first thought, if you're going to ask me to be real, is probably not. I feel like it is more that Halo effect of just changing one piece and winning behind it. But another Ash arrow goes wide. There is a chance that Fly's got a new lease on life. Maybe we can teach an old dog new tricks. Gen.G, the hardest dog to teach new tricks. They always play the game their way. OnFleek throws out the ult.
Yeah, well, we might actually have an engage here as the teams were thinking about it. I feel like we're watching golf, you know? Takes like 3 minutes in between everybody's shots. And every once in a while we'll see an Ash arrow go wide. We're like, oh, okay, nice little golf clap, and that's about it. Outside of that, there hasn't been too much action in this game, except a couple of times where the Ash arrow did hit.
It's never ideal when there's more shots being thrown out by the casters than the teams playing the game.
Yeah. Well, that is true. Don't want to throw too many shots, but after the way this one has gone, you can't help but do it.
Arrow into the mid lane. At least Ruler has 40% CDR. So if you're going to miss arrows, there is the most short cooldown window with the build that he's gone. They just want out a mid lane turret. Then they can start setting up a Baron, but pretty hard to get down from this health bar.
I think we're waiting for the Azir here as the pillar is going to come early and Summit has to turn tail. As Gen.G knew about this, it seems. That was a really nice pillar from Peanut, actually, to just block the Azir. It seems like he had a sixth sense there on the backside with that ward that they do have.
Sandbox just trying to maintain out its mid lane turret as there is the ult.
They do have cleanse here onto Dove, though, so he is able to get out of harm's way.
Azir healthy enough to wave here unless CuVee wants to get super frisky. Remember, AD cannon, so not going to blow people up with the slicing maelstrom. We get the two parts of the build. This is vintage CuVee. He's gone Rageblade second, trying to get all the on-hit synergies. Build, of course, worse than last time we saw it, given that you need those 3 hits to get the double proc on your on-hits compared to the 2 of Cannon's past, but still pretty damn effective at killing high health targets.
So Gen.G, they want to roll for another dragon. They feel like they can challenge the next one if it is going to be a big one. And speaking of which, it will be an Infernal in 5 minutes. So Gen.G ask and they receive to pick up another good Drake here.
It'll be the last spawn before Elder, and will this game just be farming until both Elder and Baron are on the map? A possibility. Top side, Life's caught.
Yeah, Life on the Lux here. He's going to flash that ultimate, though, and he gets away alive.
That was the only possible timing for him to live with a flash. It looked like he was donating flash to the enemy. Gonna have to see the replay to see how intentional the flash was. If he saw the, 0.2 second animation on the ult and chose that time to flash, then he's super next level this game, and he's been on point. Regardless, all we can say is he gets away alive. The ult does not hit from OnFleek. And we're back to wave clearing Valdez.
Yeah, you know, Gen.G in the LCK wave clearing. We've had this for a lot of years, actually. But Gen.G you guys had that games where, you know, they were actually getting aggressive. Hopefully we can get them back. But not for now, as we're all farming up here in this game. 5 kills so far in 28 minutes.
It's a farm fest. It goes this way sometimes, Valdez. It's kind of at odds, though, with the weather. Very, very hot day in Seoul, 32 degrees Celsius, in case you guys are wondering. If you need me to translate that to Fahrenheit, sorry, I'm not American, so I got nothing.
Yeah, I've been changed as well. Indoctrinated into the ways of the Celsius. Yeah, domesticated is one way to say it. I had to submit to our Celsius overlords here in Korea and in many other countries. As, okay, we got a fight here. One-on-one TP is coming in, but CuVee trying to get those autos down, and he is going to be able to get that GA. But with the TP coming in, let's take a look at the arrow. Actually dodged by both of them as CuVee. Oh, trying to flash, and he's going to get the kill. Will not be able to take down Summit, but a big play to get one at least.
Two big cooldowns from long range. Actually, the arrow misses, but that one hits. We're seeing also a brawl here. Not able to bounce anyone back. Flashing into the redemption, knowing the exact arm timing and picking up the kill there. We weren't too far from a double.
Well, that was unexpected. Speaking of which, Peanut just kind of in the front here, going to be forced to ultimate, as now we're having another trade. Joker going to get low, and a ultimate will be thrown out here from OnFleek, as nobody will go down. But man, we had a big one down to the bot lane.
Summit continues to brawl, but we're waiting for that replay on the 1v2. Where has this CuVee been for the longest time? It's usually a Worlds Gauntlet exclusive. Felt like someone unloaded that famous meme. I want the old CuVee, the aggressive CuVee. You know, they really wanted to see him come back, and it's like he watched some of his old clips and brought it back. Usually Smeb was on the receiving end of this CuVee, bringing back the carry counter picks in Gauntlet matches against KT. We're gonna watch the replay here, trying to actually funnel into the Ash Arrow. Is this sort of combat from CuVee? We know that one's gonna go wide. He can lifesteal off the minion wave, but the moment he sees Dove come in, he knows he's in trouble. I believe there was an interrupt on a TP, but he sees the arm timing flashes over the wall for the first kill. And you know what? Would have been an all-time highlight if he got the second.
If he got the second, I mean, we could just turn off the stream. We're done with League of Legends for the day, because nothing would be better than that. As he got close, though. You got to hand it to him. If there were no GA, perhaps he would have even had more. But still a fantastic play there from CuVee and team.
Gotta say, no one ever gets knocked back by Azir ultimates anymore. The mechanical ability now to always flash the right direction, always space it out. That's what happens when a champion is in meta for a while. No Azir nerfs have been required, but people are remembering getting way better and playing around some of his timings. It's also my suspicion with Qiyana, champion a little bit overtuned, but definitely hard to play against if you don't know well. Joker takes a lot of damage.
And now we're going for ults here. Finds life in the back. TP coming in. Summit looking for that big ult. Finds 3 in the back line, but he's going to be stunned up. CuVee also TPing in, and he's now going to be frontlining. We'll see if they can take down Joker here. They will get him through the Unbreakable as Gen.G turned that one around big time.
Yeah, Sandbox wanted it. You could tell how bad they wanted flash ult from Summit, but they were kiting back into the loving arms of CuVee, once again trying to be the big man for his team. It meant that the frontliners were out of position on the dive. They were taken out. Couple of kills go the way of Gen.G. In the war of attrition, in the scaling war, they're doing it. Even though we like Sandbox's scaling, they're getting outplayed by Gen.G. And we're on to Baron now, and with enough shields, they don't take a lot of damage doing this.
Ghost trying to come on in here and stop them. We'll see what they can do. They have a decent amount of poke here, but they're looking to turn now with the shields, flashing on in, trying to sweep them away, but OnFleek goes down, and Dove gets too low. Gen.G pick off another, and they're looking at the Baron again.
Ash Arrow gonna miss onto Ghost, trying to keep him away, but no way for Ghost alone to contest this objective. A short-range AD carry, 1v5, no chance. Dove will run down to the bot side and hope to get an Infernal Drake with that health bar. Isn't gonna be too easy. We'll see how fast Gen.G can get back on the map. Seems like Infernal will go the way of Sandbox.
They'll pick up the Infernal here, make that Elder spawn, but Gen.G certainly having a good play there. Let's take another look here at what happened.
And we'll keep our eye on the minimap after the start of the play. It's aggression by Gen.G, but then Sandbox like, wait, this is ours. We've got a great TP ward to make the play. And on first look, you'd agree with it. But remember the shielding and also how isolated You have to get in the backline. It's another cue to begin it from Life to get the first stun. And from there, Lucian too short range to actually fight in a scenario like this. We'll get the replay. Life draws a flash out of Dove by the blind binding over the wall. Dove showing respect earned after what we saw early game from the Lux. Shields, 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 oh my. Gen.G get the Baron, they get out, and suddenly we're fighting again.
All right, well, Ruler just doesn't die. He is, though, as I say that, as finally the shield's gonna disappear. Peanut in the middle of 5. As we didn't know how that fight started, but Gen.G did not win that one. Sandbox striking back.
And that means the Baron buff push is gonna be abated. Sandbox say, you're coming to us. We're going straight down the mid lane. Gen.G heavily out of position for this. Remember, as the game goes on, their front line when the shields are down is very brittle.
See how much Sandbox can get from this. You can see that against the Baron minions, it's not exactly easy, but they're still going to be tanking it up and going for this inhibitor.
No one can walk up from Gen.G. They're too scared. They're too squishy. Azir still has his ult up, so they can't necessarily go into Azir sec range. No Shrima shuffles needed. Mid lane inhibitor broken against the Baron. And now Gen.G, when the death timers are done, will have less than a minute and a half to get anything out of Baron. They only have 2 map turrets. So far, it's a negative Baron power play.
This is how it happened. OnFleek just lands it as Ruler didn't have his flash.
I believe the ward from Life was placed after the play started. But what is it about accuracy? Skill shot accuracy has kind of separated these two teams outside of some brilliance from CuVee. It's been OnFleek versus Life in terms of pick CC. A range of emotions. We're watching the Sandbox fans hyped up about a good moment here because it slows down on the Baron push that was oh so necessary for a Karma comp that had been farming out the early game.
Yeah, and this is a team that had the best Baron power play from what I could see in the stats before the game started, and now they're in the negatives. Sandbox looking now to take the reins on this one, and now we're past 35 minutes. The Azir here going to be looking down the barrel of 4 items soon enough. Irelia also very nicely farmed up, and you were saying how Sandbox should be favored here in this late game.
For 5v5s, I definitely think so. It's a really irritating 1v1 build to have to contend with. You're not quite Rumble versus Irelia levels of having to teleport out, but your best work is going to be as a backline diver, as GA, Titanic Hydra, Irelia. So it might be TP timings that decide this game. CuVee's being called down. They're showing a lot of respect here. This could be a negative 2,000 gold Baron buff power play, all because OnFleek was caught between a Smithy and hitting the perfect ultimate.
Yeah.
And unlike LCK casters, Smithy a very bad thing.
Yeah, he's already got my vote for this game if Sandbox do end up winning.
Is it Smithy versus? Sorry, Smithy. Is it OnFleek versus Life in this one for MVP?
Pretty much, yeah. You know, the game isn't over, but you would have to imagine that's the way it could go. I mean, CuVee absolutely has a chance at this MVP vote. We'll have to wait and see how the game does come along here. Ruler doing Ruler things and getting massive shields.
Whoa, we're doing it again!
Yeah, Peanut's all alone here.
He's tanky, though.
Okay, he does have that shield from Fly, and you can see that Sandbox are like, all right, at least I guess we got his ultimate.
Didn't get his flash. His flash actually was seconds away from coming back there. So good timing from OnFleek, but not going to happen. I wonder if we could interview him and ask him, is there any secret to hitting Sejuani ults? Because I feel like the hit rate this season has been even more down. Like, I watch the AFL and they're always complaining about how goal kicking has never been more inaccurate. I'm there with Sejuani ult hitting. It misses way more often than you need. It's like the old Varus ult that no one could ever hit.
The good old days. And then Ruler had his moment.
What's the most hit skill shot, do you think? And I'm not talking about like Ezreal or Q because it has the shortest cooldown.
Okay.
Of kind of like abilities with a real cooldown, which skill shot do we see hit those?
Like ultimates or
I mean,
anything
we
really?
got time to talk about a lot of different things here. We're waiting for the action to happen about us.
I mean, it's kind of hard. The Ash Arrow certainly lands a lot, especially with its massive hitbox. We don't see her too often, though, so it's hard to say that for
Lux
certain.
Binding is getting there this season.
Yeah, I mean, especially from the support players who seem to be very good at it. We're going on to the Elder here. from Gen.G. Summit looking for that wraparound, but we've seen this story before.
CuVee. CuVee's really good at scouting out these sort of flanks.
Arrow is going to go wide. The binding lands again. CuVee going to discourage them as Ruler taking a lot of damage there, actually, and the shields were a little bit late as this fight's still going on.
This is going to be the one fight to decide it, Valdez.
All right, Gen.G looking to back away. We're going to leash it as Fly picks up that blue.
Gen.G are on a timer more than Sandbox. They have no mid lane inhibitor. This is so tricky for them.
Oh, it's definitely rough, and now the river has been taken by Sandbox outside of that one ward.
Wave is still slow pushing in mid. It's going to take time to actually threaten the Nexus. Someone has to back. It's going to be Cannon.
Cannon goes back. It's going to show now.
TP coming.
Immediately TPing as the binding going to land again. Good AoE damage. As the stun goes down on a CuVee, and OnFleek taking a little bit too much. The arrow goes wide, though. And Summit actually, OnFleek is going to be burst down here. Summit's all alone now on the bottom side. A good stun will happen, but now that the jungler is down, Sandbox have to back away from this.
They actually lose the war of attrition. They go too far in. Summit will die. Oh, no!
Oh, Summit gets his revenge down in the bottom side. As
There's
now,
so much happening.
I don't know what these guys are doing. That's not going to work. Joker was kind of the bait there for a while as, ooh, the inhibitor also being chipped away at.
And Gen.G are going to get both buffs now after all of this. Yes, Kennen couldn't kill off the Aurelia after the GA, but they're going to lose both buffs. TPing short range just to try to get the inhibitor before Baron goes down.
And he absolutely will, and the thing is, he can rotate to the bottom side too, maybe get a little bit of chip damage.
How much time can they waste? It's so unlikely that Joker can stop multiple backs.
Okay. Not going to stop them, actually. So just the inhibitor, and the Aurelia will not have any extra time to go down into the bottom side.
Really difficult thing to analyze on first watch. Infinity Edge done for the Kennen. So let's talk about the play and how it all happens. On the replay, we'll learn a lot more. First damage goes down. Sandbox can play this many different ways, but actually OnFleek goes in while they're also trying to DPS down the Elder and tank it up, and then kind of stasises with no one to back him up. There is no Azir threat. There is no Lucian threat. So actually, the two frontliners die for free. The frontline is the difference between the teams and the reason that we thought it should be 5v5 advantage for Sandbox. But in the end, from this play, CuVee goes down. The only good moment, Sandbox are trying to do so many things at the same time. They could have abandoned Elder a little bit earlier to force Gen.G off by pushing through mid lane with the wave. They didn't. They tried to start the Baron. That doesn't work. And now it's Elder Dragon, Baron buff stacked up for at least one more minute. And all Gen.G fans are saying, please, no more negative Baron buff power plays.
Still do have a lot of potential pick power on the side here as, okay, Doug just getting out of there, and that means that Gen.G want to go for that engage. Peanut stunned up for a little bit too often, but now we do have the double buff, and the push is coming in, and all of that poke with the Elder Dragon buff is what Gen.G need to push on in. They're doing a good job so far. You can see Dove trying desperately to clear out these waves. He's going to be able to stop this one for now.
Try to reevaluate this game that has ebbed and flowed in multiple ways. One of the hardest things to evaluate always is no frontline with double shields versus frontline who wins late game. And so far, Sandbox have hesitated, Gen.G have not, and Gen.G have been winning out with just a karma shielding and CuVee's insistence on zoning. CuVee walks up, that's a lot of chunk damage.
Oh boy, and that's even without the Elder as Peanut is just in the front line and disappears. Used his shove to game, but that was a little bit too late on that one.
No one's tanky, it turns out. No one is tanky at 42 minutes into the game. You can be wantonly tanky at 25. At 42, no one is. They take down Peanut, who tried to get him melee autos.
He didn't use his stone blade either.
That's what he just didn't expect about as he walks up and he thinks that with the chunk they're getting a turret. He gets culled a bit of damage further and just straight up dies to a Sand Soldier placed earlier. Everyone overrating and underrating their tankiness in multiple ways. Here are the ebbs and flows. Now, I want to draw your attention to the fact that the scale is not huge. We're not talking about 8,000 either way. 3,000 is meaningful at 15 minutes, not so meaningful at 42. It's a lot on execution here. And what is the next objective to spawn? It will be second Elder. That's one that is second Elder for Gen.G and first for Sandbox, but high value for both, given that Sandbox are rocking 4 Drake buffs.
Absolutely, and this is actually, this is the first game of the night, and it's one of the longer ones. You were talking about the games getting a little bit longer as summer comes along, but we're already almost at 45 minutes. This doesn't happen all the time. Gen.G really sticking in this one with their kind of shield comp plus Kennen as a side lane pusher. I wonder how that side lane is going to change after Summit just kind of got that solo kill onto CuVee the last time around. But we're getting to the 6-item territory. We're getting to the ultimate late game with the the 2 elders spawning now. It'll be interesting to see who will take this first one and how it swings the momentum in the series.
Now, there's actually momentum in a way that I think a lot of people would miss at being reflected in the items. And that's not, wow, lots of 6-item builds, but notice that Gen.G are able to have 8 control wards and currently have 7 in inventory. And there's a lot of full item builds, stopwatches clogging the inventory on Sandbox. Gen.G can play vision plays like this oh so much better. They have a lot of pick tools.
Everything misses there from the side of Gen.G. Peanut is going to have to get McHale's to get out of that one. You can see that Gen.G now doing the poking. CuVee, as OnFleek goes over the wall, he's all alone. He has to flash away. After that stone plate, CuVee wanted a little bit more. A couple of summoners taken away there from the side of Sandbox.
And Gen.G only has to be careful about true 5v5s, but with the vision advantage, the ability to put it down and then throw out hawk shots and arrows, it's so hard for Sandbox to play around objectives that Gen.G have control of, because they can actually only fit 4 control wards into their inventory. So actually they might be handicapped by how many completed items they have when it comes to playing out the map, because one pick can decide the game at 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's a comp that just has incredible control with the items you're talking about, but even just the bottom lane, we talked a lot about Lux being good in the support role because of all of her abilities, giving vision. And you add the Ashe in there as well. It's like you're having a grand old time, and you have a ton of poke on the other side. And so with the second Elder, it's going to be even stronger.
So putting that together, if they're all looking at each other like a stare-off Mexican standoff, the 6 items are better. But if you're getting a pick, that's way better, and Gen.G looking for that pick.
Ooh, Peanut this time is going to dodge. We're trying to ult onto Fly here, who does flash away. Now ultimate, no ultimate here onto the Sejuani. We're starting up the Elder Drake once again.
And in this standoff, you'll take the completed items on Sandbox side. Can they make something happen? Arrow hits OnFleek.
The poking is good, but it's another ultimate that is down. We do have Aurelia coming in from behind here. The one-on-one starts up in the top side. Gen.G looking to turn, but Summit, he's just going face first into the pool. Getting pretty low, and he's not able to do it. Joker's going to go down here. Life sticking alive as the TA is down. Sandbox, they just want to deny this one. The smite is going to go the way of Sandbox here as OnFleek does take it, but it's 4 kills to the direction of Gen.G, and it should be a 5th one. As actually, no, Ghost is going to be able to get away as they did not want to be called, but that's 4 kills going the way of Gen.G.
And how much can they get here on the side of Gen.G? They could be able to just end the game. The death timers are comically long. Summit tries to dive in 1v5, but he's turned on the shields, keep the enemy front line healthy, and I think Gen.G have done it.
Looks like it. No reason to go for that Baron. That would be more of an inch than anything. Might as well just take the kill, take the win here in game number 1. As well, see you later, Ghost. You're going to go down to just an added number there to Gen.G, but a very long game here. 47 minutes goes the way of Gen.G.
Sandbox getting Elder Dragon, but they also get a game 1 loss. Gen.G looking to extend their win streak with a victory over our top-seeded team in quintessential, historic Gen.G fashion. It went to the ultra-late game, but in this case, they just played out team fights I feel like was set up to be pretty damn good on the side of Sandbox, and they just showed the reliability of short cooldown shielding meant that it overcame any kind of execution errors. They played the fights pretty smartly, and so often Aurelia dived in, was dealt with, and Kennen actually, even with AD build, got way more value zoning away threats. I thought CuVee zoning this game puts him as a very close second MVP candidate behind Life for me.
Yeah, would have to agree, absolutely. Wow, that was a game. I mean, that was only game 1 of the night, guys, so stay tuned for more action. I go back to, you were talking about that composition with all the shields. That's generally something that was denied a lot. in times here at the LCK, but they targeted the bottom lane, Ezreal, Yuumi, Xayah, on blue side bans for Sandbox, but that just left Karma and Lux available after their first pick, Sejuani, and gave Gen.G this incredible shielding comp.
And you just see the ebbs and flows and how it was Sandbox some more meaningful gold leads during this game. Remember the negative Baron buff power play from Gen.G for the first one. You look at Lucian Braum, you see Ashe Lux, and you're right, the bot lane still ended up being a winning lane for Gen.G. After all of the bans, the Lucian Braum got through, and you might say, okay, this comp's going to get outscaled, but Aurelia should have more teamfight threat than AD Cannon. Azir should be the consistent longer range damage that Lucian and Braum don't provide, and the real frontline was on the side of Sandbox. So usually, conventional logic screams Sandbox favorite. But if you don't get the execution right, and you can't play around the shields, big shields, it's like everyone's a frontliner when Karma has enough of that ability power, and it ends up being Gen.G playing out the critical moments better, and thus being deserving victors of game number 1.
That's a classic Gen.G win there, so should be very happy if you're a Gen.G fan, especially on their current run coming back here. They take game number 1 against the first place team here in the LCK. We'll see if they can close out the series after this break.
아래에서 2라운드 컨택 가이드 보인다? 1에 보여. 나 영수 볼게. 앞으로 나갈게. 기금. 아직 더블 받았고. 저거 이래야 보여. 이래야 막혀도 되네. 바로. 이래야 막혀도. 야, 그 루탄 폈다. 만트라 쉴드 말해줘. 루탄 폈대. 그래. 만트라. 이래 봐줘. 맞아. 이래 먼저 봐줘. 천천히. 라이더야, 미드웨이브. 끝일 것 같은데? 갈게. 노플 끝내. 미드 가자. 피해줄게. 아, 잘했다. 수원 아니야. 아직 안 끝났어. 집중하자. 후원 받아. 오케이, 그건 더 있네. 가자, 얘들아.